This is CNN Breaking News.
I'm Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. We're following the first confirmation hearings for Donald Trump's cabinet nominees. We're going to get back there shortly, but we have breaking news we're following right now. I want to get straight to Jake Tapper, who's with us. Jake, you've got some major breaking news.
That's right, Wolf. A CNN exclusive. CNN has learned that the nation's top intelligence officials provided information to President-elect Donald Trump and to President Barack Obama last week about claims of Russian efforts to compromise President-elect Trump. The information was provided as part of last week's classified intelligence briefing regarding Russian efforts to undermine the U.S. elections. I've been working on this story with Jim Sciutto and Evan Perez and Carl Bernstein. We've all been working on this, and they all join me now. So let me start with my colleague Jim Sciutto. Jim, walk us through what we've learned.
I want to be very precise here. Multiple U.S. officials with direct knowledge of the briefings tell CNN that classified documents on Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election presented last week to President Obama and to President-elect Trump included allegations that Russian operatives claimed to have compromising personal and financial information about Mr. Trump. The allegations were part of a two-page synopsis. These were based on memos compiled by a former British intelligence operative whose past work U.S. intelligence officials consider credible. The FBI is now investigating the credibility and accuracy of the allegations, which are based primarily on information from Russian sources, but the FBI has not confirmed many essential details in the memos about Mr. Trump. The classified briefings last week, I should note, were presented by four of the senior-most U.S. intelligence chiefs. That is, Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, FBI Director James Comey, the CIA Director John Brennan, and NSA Director Admiral Mike Rogers. This two-page synopsis also included allegations that there was a continuing exchange of information during the campaign between Trump surrogates and intermediaries for the Russian government. This according to two national security officials. CNN has confirmed that the synopsis was included in the documents that were presented to Mr. Trump. However, we cannot confirm if it was discussed in his meeting with those intelligence chiefs. The Trump transition team declined to comment. I should also mention that the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and the FBI also declined to comment as well.
Now, we should point out that we did reach out to the Trump team. They say that they are working on a statement. They will get back to us. As soon as they do get back to us, we will provide that information in our online reporting and also on television. I just want to underline, this two-page synopsis that we're referring to, this is an annex. This is an addendum to the intelligence community report.
That's exactly right. There was a broader report that spoke to the intelligence community's assessment that Russia hacked the U.S. election, interfered in the U.S. election, and also had an intent in doing so. This two-page addendum was included in the documents for this briefing, but it was not part of that larger assessment on Russian interference.
Now, Evan Perez, let me bring you in. We know that the intelligence community and the FBI, they are still trying to vet these allegations. They found the individual, that the former British intelligence official, they found him credible and his sources credible. The allegations, they weren't so sure. So why even bring it up with President Obama or President-elect Trump?
That's right. Well, there's a couple of reasons, Jake. The reasons that they were given to do this is that the intelligence officials tell us that they included the synopsis in part to make the President-elect aware that these allegations involving him are circulating among intelligence agencies, senior members of Congress, and other government officials in Washington. Several officials with knowledge of the briefings tell CNN that the information was also included in part to demonstrate that Russia had compiled information potentially harmful to both political parties, but only released information damaging to Hillary Clinton and Democrats. Now, this synopsis was not an official part of the intelligence community case about the Russian hacks, but some officials said that it augmented the evidence that Moscow had intended to harm Clinton's campaign and to help Trump.
Fascinating. And Carl Bernstein, let me bring you in here. This information, it did not start with U.S. intelligence, and it did not start with the FBI or law enforcement. Where did it come from?
It came from a former British MI6 intelligence agent who was hired by a political opposition research firm in Washington who was doing work about Donald Trump for both Republican and Democratic candidates opposed to Trump. They were looking at Trump's business ties. They saw some questionable things about Russians, about his businesses in Russia. They in turn hired this MI6 former investigator. He then came up with additional information from his Russian sources. He was very concerned by the implications of it. He then took it to an FBI colleague that he had known in his undercover work for years. He took it to this FBI man in Rome, who turned it over to the Bureau in Washington in August. And then a former British ambassador to Russia independently was made aware of these findings, and he took the information to John McCain, Senator John McCain of Arizona, in the period just after the election, and showed it to McCain, additional findings. McCain was sufficiently disturbed by what he read to take it to FBI Director James Comey himself personally. They had a 5-minute meeting, the two men. Very little was said. McCain turned it over to him and is now awaiting what the FBI's response is to that information.